Okay, morning men. Start of another weekend and time for good morning men. And I just wanted to get rid of that and the weekend and into another great week. I hope for you all. I know we all get challenged along the way, but that's a part of life. And as long as we've got the tools and the skills in place to work through it, we're always pretty good. So I want to talk about this week. I put some posts up about am I a good bloke, and it wasn't about looking for feedback and for those people who said you are, and my mum was one of them, by the way. She sent me a little text message. She said you've always been a good bloke, so thank you, mum. But it wasn't about that. It was about the understanding that we don't always feel like we're a good bloke or we're good at our job, and for me, I I talk about in those posts about knowing and feeling, and there's a difference. And so for me, I always sort of knew logically I was a good bloke. It was always I always try to do the right thing, but internally, emotionally, I didn't feel like I was a good bloke, and that's because I was portraying someone that I probably wasn't. I was portraying that I had my shit together, that I had my life together, that everything was good. But behind closed doors at home and internally, my life was a mess. It was a shambles. I felt like shit. I was depressed. I was dealing with my trauma from my past, and I was pretending everything was okay, and it wasn't. So at the end of the day, I knew I was, but I felt like I wasn't. And that's what I was trying to get across about, am I a good bloke? Because our internal battles of who we are conflicts with who we think we are and who we feel we are. And when they're not aligned, it can cause us some real troubles. Well, it caused me troubles anyway, and I don't know if anyone else is out there the same, but it caused me to feel like I was, I just felt like a piece of shit. Now, when it comes to sport, and a few other things, I could take compliments quite well, but I always had myself a barrier. Like I could play A-grade amateurs, but I wasn't good enough to go to Waffle, for example. I always knew that that's the limitations I set on myself, and the same with work. I wasn't smart enough to do X, Y, Z, and then as I got older, it's like, well, maybe I am. And so my mindset changed. But am I good enough to do this? Oh no, I'm not. So we put limitations on ourselves because of this underlying, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? And it doesn't have to be just about, am I a good bloke? Am I good enough to get the promotion? Am I good enough to be in this relationship? Am I good enough to earn this amount of money? Am I good enough? And it all stems back to self-worth and how we feel about ourselves and how we feel internally. And I've still got blocks. I've still got blocks around success and money and that sort of stuff. 100% I've got blocks on that. And I'm still working on that. And I'll continue to work on that as often as I can. So I work on it every day, actually, because I do a bit of journaling around it. But when it comes to uh, us as men, we in general, and with the men I speak to, and I'm not trying to generalize everyone in the same category because that's not what it's about, but just trying to understand that, when we have these limiting self-beliefs, it all stems back to some self-worth issues. And if you do have some self-worth issues and you are being held back by yourself, then it's really important to understand where it comes from. And and I go back to that emotional backpack. We carry all that emotional trauma and pain and hurt and stuff in our backpack, and we refuse to deal with it, and we ignore it, and it just weighs us down. And so for me, uh, once I dealt with that emotional trauma, and with the men I work with, who come to the workshops and who I do the online programs with, once they can actually start to unpack that pain and that trauma, that hurt, all of a sudden that weight is lifted. All of a sudden we can understand, like, you can actually understand why we like ourselves all of a sudden. I had this massive epiphany at my first ever workshop that I went to for me, and it was like I felt this pure love for myself for the first time in my life. It took a couple of processes over that weekend to get to that point, but it was I felt like I was floating in air for the next 8 weeks. It was life changing, transformational, whatever you want to call it. But that there summed up who it was. I had to do some bit of work afterwards, but at the end of the day, we are worthy of success, of happiness, of love, of being the best we can be. But we have to do the work to get there sometimes, because life has got in the way. And we don't always know how to deal with it. So I really encourage you, if you are struggling, if you do feel like that you're not worthy of compliments, even, and I would cringe when people would say nice things about me. Internally, I'd actually fob them off, pretend I didn't say it, and then change the subject. But internally, I'd be in the corner, in the fetal position, going, "Shut the fuck up! I don't want to hear that." But that's how I felt about who I was as a person until I was 50 years old. I lived like my entire adult life living like that, and I look back now and it's like, it's really disappointing. It's really sad. But at the same time, that was my journey. But it's never too late to turn that around. So if you do feel like you're struggling internally and you don't feel like you have that self-worth or that self-belief that you think you should have, then consider taking some steps to doing that. Because we can all change, we can all deal with it, and we can also all work through that stuff. We just have to take that first step and trust in our belief in ourselves that we're doing the right thing for us. And sometimes we have to be a little bit selfish because we look after everybody else, our family, our friends, our work, make sure we've got money on the table, but sometimes we have to stop, look after ourselves for a period of time, and that way we can move forward in a more positive way. And that's really important. So if you are struggling, if you do want to do something about it, if you do want to make some changes, then PM me. I've got a webinar coming up, a free webinar coming up in about 6 weeks' time. I'll keep you posted about that. This is announcing it right now. Might be a bit sooner than that, but it'll be here before you know it. And that'll go for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I have a free webinar. But if you want to do something right now, then if you're living in WA, then come to the workshop next weekend. It starts on Friday at 12 o'clock. We've still got about 2 or 3 spots available. So if you want to change your life and you want to do it now, if you're sick of living in pain, struggling with your self-worth, with your self-belief, then only you can do something about it. We can help and guide you at the workshop, but you have to be prepared to do the work. And that's what the workshop's for. And it is a transformational weekend. That's why men come back time after time to help out, be a part of it, and be involved. Because it does change your life. It starts at 12 o'clock on Friday, finishes at 4 o'clock on Sunday. It's live-in, food, accommodation, everything included. And you get to be around a bunch of like-minded men who also want to make a difference in their own life. If you have any questions, PM me. Otherwise, make some comments below about, how you've struggled in the past, maybe how you're struggling now. It's okay to share this sort of stuff. It's okay to know you're not alone. You're not the only one who feels like this. We all feel like this at some point in our life. Some more than others. Some continuously like I was. Until next time, peace, love and healing. Stay safe and have a great weekend. Bye.